والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام.
So Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed that I would do the khutbah this week because it gives me a chance to talk about the issue which we were talking about last week. Interestingly, last week I was talking about homosexuality and somebody sent me, I don't know if you've seen it, but in Bishopbriggs Academy, somebody took a photo of something on a notice board saying some people or some children do not know it is okay to be Muslim and gay. Right? This is Bishopbriggs, this is just in your local school. So obviously it's Pride month. So this is why it's important to talk about these issues, understand them ourselves and talk about them with our children because we don't have a choice. So I talked about last week about homosexuality and when we're discussing with people how we can explain our position in an intelligent and respectful way. And today I want to talk about transgenderism. So you have LGBT, so the T stands for transgenderism. Transgenderism basically men transitioning into women and women transitioning into men. So a woman, a man, a biological man who goes through surgery and becomes a woman, that's called a transgender woman. And a woman who goes through surgery and becomes a man, that's what we call a transgender man. And you've probably obviously seen this, it's all over the news all the time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously in our religion there is only two sexes, there are only two genders. Dhakar wa untha. There is male and female. There is no third. There is something called Konsa. Okay, Konsa. And Konsa, there was two types of Konsa. And these are very rare genetic disorders basically. Where it was, say for example, the person was born with two organs. So it was difficult to know which one is male and which one is female. That's a separate category, that's a separate issue. So we're talking about the norm here. So the first starting point when we're having this discussion is the scientific discussion that everyone knows. We study in biology that females have two chromosomes in their cells and males have one X and one Y. So even if you change the exterior, okay, so even if you take a man and put women body parts, plastic surgery and so forth, onto the man, internally the cellular structure still of a male. So you cannot get away from biology. But what they say is that biology is not important. What's important is how you feel. If you feel that you're a female but in a male body, you feel, so it's all about feelings, okay? So the first thing we have to ask when we're having this discussion is why is it enough for a mere feeling to become reality? Okay? And also, if that's your position, if you believe that you're so let's say you believe you're a female, but you're biologically born as a male, why is it so important for us to validate it? Right? Because they say, well, you know, these people, if you don't let them go through this surgery, they'll commit suicide. And I'm going to come to a study which proves that it does not reduce the suicidal rates at all. Right? So that's a phony argument. Anyway, the point is, why do I need to validate that? If you believe you're a female, right? That's up to you. You can believe whatever you want. Why do I have to accept it? Why do I have to validate it? Because that's a very weak argument. Because if you believe something is true, right? If I believe Islam is true, right? Do I need anyone to validate? Do I need the non-Muslims to agree with me that Islam is true for me to feel okay, it's true? No, because I believe it. Even if everyone disagreed, I would still believe it. The prophets, when they came, right? sometimes some of them had no followers. They believed in the truth. They didn't need people to validate so that they felt, okay, I believe now. So if you're saying to me that you feel better only if I validate you, then you've got a weak argument. Then how true is that? Because if it's really true and you believe it to be true, you shouldn't care what anyone thinks. You shouldn't care. Yes, you can argue we shouldn't be discriminated against, we shouldn't be abused. We don't have a problem with that. If a trans person was getting attacked, Islamic duty is to help somebody who's getting attacked. It doesn't matter who they are. We're not going to ask, are you trans or not? We're going to help them. So what's that got to do with us having to agree with you? I don't need anyone to agree with me, so why do you need people to agree with you? That shows that my belief is more true to me than your belief is to you. The other thing is, why are feelings so important? If an anorexic person, right, anorexia, everyone knows anorexia is somebody who's got a eating disorder because they feel they're overweight. They feel overweight. Do I now validate that you're overweight? If somebody underweight in front of me comes and says, I feel overweight, I'm not going to agree that they're overweight. Because just because they feel like that doesn't change reality. And also you have, if it's all about feelings, and there is a category of people who are called transabled. This means people who are born normal, but they feel that they're a disabled person in an able person's body. So you feel that this arm doesn't belong to me. And there are people who have amputated their arms and felt better afterwards. This is extra, right? I'm a disabled person, this arm should be here, they amputate their arms. Should the NHS allow amputations because people feel disabled? You see the thinking, you have to ask these questions. It's not to argue with people. It's because we're not making it an issue. We don't make it an issue. But if you start getting asked these questions, well, why don't you support it? Or does that not X, Y, Z? You say, no, look, this is, well, okay, if you're saying it's all about feelings, well, what about this? So the thing is, we have to understand that this is the thinking behind this. You might not say that to other people, but it's absolutely from Shaitan. There is no doubt about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Nisa, in verse number 119, that Shaitan says that I will misguide mankind. And of the things that he mentions, he says, I will command them so that they will change the creation of Allah. And this is what we're witnessing right in front of our eyes. Now, there's a lot of people, maybe like last week we talked about homosexuality, a lot of non-Muslims are okay with it, but less so with the trans thing. More non-Muslims, even the ones who agree with homosexuality, when it comes to transgenderism, they're against it. It's a bit too much for them. And obviously you've probably heard the arguments that they make, and theirs is more to do with safety. They do not want biological males going into female changing rooms, into female spaces. So a lot of feminists have a problem with this because they feel that men are changing their gender to invade female spaces. Right? And we've obviously seen cases where rapists have been sent to all women prisons, even though they have actually raped women in prison because they said that they were women. And then also it's very difficult when it comes to regulating this because, as you know, there's so many genders and they're increasing all the time. There is one called gender fluid. So gender fluid means that the gender is not fixed, which means that person, a gender fluid person, might be male one day, Monday they're male, right? Tuesday they're female, Wednesday they're both male and female, and on Thursday they're neither, non-binary. Right? So how are you supposed to, what are you supposed to do? Do they enter female spaces, not enter female spaces, male spaces? Where do you put them? You can't accommodate that. So when we're talking to people, we say, look, irrespective of what we believe and what you believe, all the rest of it, can we not just agree that it's not a good idea to expose children, young children, to explicitly sexual content? That's not good for their development, and it's grossly irresponsible. And can we not just agree that to mutilate bodies of children is not a good idea, especially when it's irreversible? It's not like you can, people who are detransitioning, these are people who are males become a female and then regretted it and then trying to go back to being male. You can't, it's very difficult when you remove body parts to reverse that. So it would make more common sense. Would they say, well, how are you going to help these people? They want to commit suicide. You say, okay, somebody comes like that, we would. Does it not make more sense that you try and help a person through therapy to help them with their trauma, help them with their stress, their anxieties, whatever the difficulties in life are? Is it not more intelligent to do that rather than jumping to surgery? And then what they do is, if a child they're not sure what's going on, they will put them on puberty blockers. What is a puberty blocker? It stops you from going through puberty. And typically this will happen between the ages of 9 and 13, just before they go through puberty. One of the major side effects of these, even if they come off them, is that they will become infertile. They will not be able to have children. Okay? So the other thing is, they might say, yeah, but we've got all these studies that say that this helps people. When they go through these sex changes, it helps them, it reduces their anxieties and all the rest of it. You say, maybe in the short term, but think about it logically, right? When you do a study, you look at it over a long period of time, and you see what the patterns. This is so recent, it's been done so recently, at the scale it's been done, there is no way of knowing whether this is a success story or not until a period of time has passed. So we will not know, this is a social experiment, we will not know the result until much later. But, and also they've found that if children who feel that they're not sure about their gender, it's called desistance, that if you leave them alone, right, 84% will grow out of it. In other words, they grow out of it. It's a phase. They go through a phase. You just leave them alone, don't do anything. 84%, some studies say 90%, will actually come out of it. They will no longer have this issue. So is it not better to wait for that to happen? And I need to finish now. Out of the studies that they've got, and like I said, it's very difficult to rely on any study because it's not been done for a long enough period. But there was a study done in Sweden, probably the only one which we can kind of look to because it was done over a period of time, over 30 years, and they followed 300 people, 324 people, and after doing the study over 30, in other words, they followed these people for 30 years. After following them for 30 years, they found that compared to normal, healthy, controlled population, they had higher rates of mortality, in other words death, higher rates from death from cardiovascular disease, and suicide attempts, and psychiatric hospitalizations. In all of these categories, their rates were higher than normal people. In other words, this claim that these people commit suicide, and if you don't help them, and if you help them, they go through these changes, they will no longer want to commit suicide. It doesn't hold up according to the kind of robust studies. So again, I apologize for bringing this up. It's not out of choice that we are speaking about these things, but these are the issues of our time. We have to educate ourselves, know the arguments, and know how to discuss intelligently and respectfully with people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.